Evet Miçe, çok teşekkürler. Tabii ki kendisini bırakmıyoruz. Kendisine eminim sizlerin de birkaç sorusu vardır. Ama bu soru cevap bölümünü yönetmek üzere Yapı Endüstri Merkezi Stratejik Pazarlama ve İş Geliştirme Koordinatörü Sayın Banu Oçak sahnede. Ona soruları olacak, arkasından da size söz verecek. Buyurun.
First of all, thank you very much. I had some questions in my mind, but during your speech, I've listed some keywords, some adjectives, and I really can't count them all. I mean, it was basically provocative and inspiring. Thank you very much for your speech. The projects are logical, technological, visual, social, scientific, bold and everything, and it was what we needed. So thank you very much for coming to Istanbul. I'm sure everybody has some questions in their minds, but I want to start with Terraform one because it's the basis of everything. So I know that it's a non-profit organization, and all of us know that it's a capitalist, harsh world outside. Nice to have concepts, have no viability. So I have to ask, how did you manage to survive, or let me rephrase, sustain?
Right. Well, how do we manage to survive? That's a great question. As a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we are vetted by the American tax group, the IRS. So we have to be very careful on the projects that we produce. They should be about experimentation. They should be about the public. They should be essentially explorations and research and available to anybody. And our doors are open all the time. Because of the work we do, we're not your regular everyday architecture office. We take on some private clients, but that's a very small amount. Mostly we take on research projects that come from universities or individual students or folks that have questions, or some corporations that want to study a particular material, etc. And we get funding from those. We also enter a lot of competitions, which we get funding from, and we get large grants from the government, city and state level. One of the grants we got was from Governor Cuomo, was $48 million to set up our research labs in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Got another $7 million from Christine Quinn, who was running for mayor of New York, and she did not win, but we were voting for her. But the new mayor is great. He's not here, so I guess it doesn't matter. But we get supported by many different levels, and a lot of the folks that come to us are volunteer researchers that either hate their job or don't know what to do after school, and we are like a magnet. We find all of these folks, and they get to learn new things. They get to meet some cool people doing work in robotics or computer hacking or printmaking, and they learn these skills and they take on their own projects. So even the folks that work for us, we don't tell them what to do. I mean, that's not our job. We're interested in people that want to blaze their own trail, have some idea that most people think is too out there to study, or they don't have enough funding. They send us a message. They come in, our doors are always open, and some of these folks find a home where they can do the research there.
It's really impressive. At the beginning of your speech, you talked about Homer Simpson. You are aiming everything to provoke Homer Simpson. But at the end of the day, I believe that we as the professionals also sometimes need to be provoked as well. So it's really important to have some place, some shelter to go if you have some ideas out there. So I really want to go on with my questions, but I believe that you also have some questions. I can have some questions from our audience as well. So buyurun. Tercüme edilecek.
Yılmaz Parlar, Net Haber Ajans. Önce bu çok güzel ufuk turu için çok teşekkür ederiz. Gerçekten çok nefis, inovatif, yani bilimsel, biz de örneklediniz her konuyu. Ancak bize de hani Türkiye olarak işte yapılan bir takım böyle bir çalışmalarda olsa, fakat hayata geçmesi, yani bu maliyetler açısından biraz mümkün olmuyor. Ya böyle yaptırımlar gerekli, yani bir örgütler tarafından, veyahut da hani diğer ürünlerle rekabet edilebilir şeklinde bir departmanınızda hani böyle bir konuyu da inceleyebiliyor mu? Onu bir öğrenmek istiyordum. Ben bir örnek vereyim. Diyelim ki işte rüzgar enerjisi bir dönem bizim Türkiye'de ruhsatlar verilemedi. Ancak Avrupa rüzgar enerji birimi direttikten sonra ruhsatlar verildi. Bugün de sayılamayacak kadar ruhsat var. Ya bu bakımdan şeydir. Yani böyle bir departmanınızda var mı? Yani bunu maliyetlendiren, çok tabii hibeler alıyorsunuz akıl almaz şekilde. Şimdi rakamları görünce.
Teşekkürler.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. It's a really good point. There are many layers to that answer. One, we have to understand the scales of economy. Certain things happen faster than other things. When it comes to innovation and new technology, telecommunications is about 5 to 7 years. From a sketch or an idea of a new type of cell phone that could be greener or change the paradigm on how we think about communications, happens rather quickly, sometimes even faster than 5 years. When you wanted to redesign a car, it takes a lot longer. It's about 15 to 20 years. Not only from just ramping up the research and moving through different prototypes, but for convincing the marketplace that something like that has value. Hybrid electric vehicles are kind of a great example. The Toyota Prius is one of them. Architectural changes, large-scale changes like the roofs of buildings or elements in facades, boiler heaters, solar panels, it takes even longer, probably around 30 to 40 years. It's because people build buildings and they don't expect them to break down for a very, very long time. And until some of those components break, they're not interested in investing in new ones. And the things that they're investing in are probably the cheapest solutions that they can find in many cases. And then thinking about the city is even much longer than the architectural implications. It takes around 100 to 150 years before you see a major shift and a pattern in how cities change and how you can develop enough funding and enough backing in the economy for that change to occur. And it's a build-up of many things. In order to get to that build-up, you need narratives. You don't need promises. Promises are wrong. You just need detailed kind of stories or fictive narratives that engage the public in a kind of an everyday scenario of what it's like to live with some of these new technologies. For instance, what is Istanbul going to be like if everyone has Google Glass? What is that narrative? Well, no one's done it yet. That's really important. There's many narratives where we've seen technologies radically shift because they were so inspiring. I often talk about Jules Verne. He was a writer in France. He wrote over 80 books. One of the narratives he talked about was from Earth to the moon. He imagined an impossible technology, an impossible idea, certainly no funding to get it, but he was an author who wrote down a very detailed description of a staged rocket system that would have boosters that would decouple, would have a lunar landing module that would land on the Earth, would have a kind of a capsule element with a shield to re-enter the Earth, parachutes that would be deployed, landing in the ocean, picked up by the Navy. When these kids that worked on the Apollo missions under John F. Kennedy started thinking about, we want to go to space, they went to the grand narrative. They went to those creative people first who had those ideas talked about, articulated, and discussed. There were many other books, fictive narratives that talked about getting to the moon. Some were more popular than others. I think it's important as designers, because design is incredibly powerful, to contribute to those narratives so those things could get funding, have a logic in the marketplace, and have the public supporting them.
Thank you. Beyefendi,
teşekkür ederim. Evimizi yetiştirmeye başladık. Şimdi siz İstanbul'dasınız ve başlangıç için atık ve ulaşım dışında İstanbul gibi bir metropolü yetiştirmeye tasarım, planlama, halk veya belediye olarak nereden başlardınız? Where are you going to start with nourishing Istanbul or growing Istanbul?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would start working on a big review of the planning process. I mean, Istanbul is a palimpsest. It has many layers, a very ancient city with many different histories. Where it is growing is on the edges. or what we call the peri-urban conditions. It is that kind of sprawl and that the kind of uncontrolled growth that needs to be pulled back, that needs to be reined in. Especially lots of new towns that are growing up, or cropping up, I should say, around Istanbul. These are things that we have the opportunity to do at the greenest possible level. This is where socio-ecological design has its greatest chance, is in these areas that are being taken over by very quick and rampant development that seem to grow the city outwards. That would be one of the places to look at. And then, probably after doing something like that, we'd scale back and understand the kind of the flows that make up Istanbul, where food comes from, where waste is cycled, how we deal about air quality, what we think about water quality in a city like this. And we kind of map these flows and chart them, which many planners and certainly other urban designers and architects have done. And we create big propositions for what some of those features might be like as it relates to the growth of the population and the expansion onto the outside. I think in many cases, not all of these things will be implemented, but we need a meme, a kind of a simple phrase that communicates to the public what we want a future Istanbul to be. In Chicago, we had a meme. It was called City Beautiful. The English had a meme. It was called Garden City. And we still borrow from some of those memes. Right now, we have one called Smart City, and it doesn't belong to Americans or Asians or anyone. Smart City is a very adaptive model. It's a future where we make a spectacle of the metabolism, the stuff of life, the infrastructure and flows that create the city. Whether they're intelligent networks or ecological networks, both of them are a part of the smart city. If that narrative is something that folks can understand, we're building a smart city here in Istanbul, it's helpful to kind of get people on board, because the top kind of organization of that system is clear. And it's also leaves a lot of room for imagination and how one would interpret it. But right now, I don't think Istanbul has a meme or a tag for how it might grow or what we think of when it changes. And the smart city movement is also just born. It needs definition itself. So I know it's difficult. It's like painting a watercolor in a stream. As you put down an answer, it goes away. You put another answer, it goes away. But there's opportunities to throw a rock of color in that stream that makes a very strong footprint, and that shows very clearly what some of those solutions are. So I think in the edges we'd have an opportunity, and then we take it back into the middle.
Başka sorumuz var mı salonda? Beyefendiye.
İyi akşamlar. Bay Mitchell'a çok teşekkür ederiz. Şimdi efendim, kentsel dönüşüm adına ransal dönüşümün yapıldığı bir şehirde yaşıyoruz. Çok eski bir şehir, 10.000 yıllık. Ve bu şehirde maalesef ki bu beton binalar üzerimize geliyor. Ve içinde yaşamak günden güne zorlaşıyor. Acaba diyorum, Amerika dünyada çeşitli ülkelere şekil veriyor. Bu şekil vermek siyaset anlamında, dar anlamda kullanıyorum. Acaba Bay Mitchell bizim Çevre ve Şehircilik Bakanı olarak görev yapamaz mı burada? Teşekkürler.
I mean, he has already been offered a job from the new president, is it?
Yeah, I'll take the job in Istanbul. It's beautiful. Yeah, easy. I guess in answer to the question of concrete construction, I mean, that's, I can think about new technologies, and when we find them in architecture, like I said before, it takes a long time to ramp up before they're implemented in everyday use. Even new types of concrete, such as slow creep concrete, where the mica chips are aligned perfectly and becomes 89% more efficient in its usage. We've seen other concrete materials embedded with carbon fiber that allow for super strength with minimal surface. In fact, there's probably a library of different types of concrete in many engineering universities where we're looking at all kinds of solutions to how to deal with this kind of the problem that we find today. I think we really need a technology that is what I call leapfrogs the existing condition. Leapfrogging meaning it's so much better. It's that much more exciting than what's out there today that it is the only choice, and it happens to be cheaper.
Like a miracle, you say?
Well, not like a miracle. I think it's up to the field of design. Certainly planners and architects, industrial designers, they're responsible because it's the first signal of human intention is design. If you design a weapon, you intend to kill someone. If you design something that is not sustainable, you're also intending to kill someone, just slowly. So I think that as designers, the culture that's out there is we're very keen, very hardworking on solving to making things more ecological. I'll bring up a very short case. I use a razor, not all the time, but I have something called a Gillette Mach 5 razor. It looks like a toy robot. And you guys have them? Great. My wife has one too. It's pink, because apparently women need pink razors. I use this because it's the best possible razor for my face. I will not use an eco razor because, it's first of all, it's more expensive and it doesn't perform that well. It cuts you up. The 5-bladed Gillette one is amazing, and it's actually impossible to recycle it. It's not designed for being disassembled. It's packaged quadruply. It even comes with a mirrored stand, so you can put it in your medicine cabinet and stare at your beautiful razor. And it's a useless kind of added amount of materials into making it, but it is the best possible razor. So when it comes to design, we need to use that bar. We need to make a razor that is absolutely green, fits into a metabolic stream of waste nutrients, can be recycled, works better than a Gillette Mach 5, and is cheaper at the point of purchase in the marketplace. I think that's up to designers to make something like that. It's not impossible, but I think it's a goal that we have. And by constantly challenging each other with competitions or peer-reviewed research in universities, we'll get to more and more of those products on the shelf. And the good thing about that razor is it doesn't have to say it's ecological. It's called stealth ecology, invisible ecology. You buy it because it works better, and it's cheaper. It has nothing to do with whether it's green or organic. In some cases, that actually doesn't help sell the product. It causes people to turn away from it. So that's the kind of mentality that we need to approach many things in systems in architecture and how we build buildings.
Başka soru var mı salonda? I think that's all from our audience, but I have a last question for myself.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I prepared a question about Istanbul, but it has already rose. So, what stuck in my mind tonight was you talked about everything and anything, but the notion that is on my mind is collaboration, multidisciplinarity, and popular culture. I want to ask you a question about the popular culture and the role of media, in terms of multiplying the effect of the work you are doing right now, because it is obviously helping that you are on Times Magazine and you're on Wired. Even in Turkey we can hear about you. So sometimes when it's on popular culture, it loses its refined effect in terms of science. But in your case, it's just vice versa. It's the opposite. So can you a little talk about this?
Yeah, I guess it's my organization is it's not just me. We're a host of really smart people. Some are better at speaking and making public presentations than others. Some are better at science and counting all day than perhaps me. But we work together as a really large group. And our projects have multiple authors that hit things from all kinds of angles, which makes it, I guess, interesting to the media. And that's super cool. We are what we call a heterodoxic think tank. We don't respect one discipline, we respect many. I am a professor at NYU of individualized study. I don't think students should just follow one specific predetermined path for their education. They should find ideas and pieces and pull them together and define their own path through education. I'm on a faculty of many different people, whether they're doing Shakespeare to East Asian studies to history of science. We're all coming together. So the media play is, I guess it's just happening for us, and we welcome it. But it's what?
It's not a priority.
It's not a priority, in fact, but it's how do I say it? A lot of people out there need content. You'd be surprised. They have a desk job all day, and they can't find something to talk about, and they take up a couple of days working with us to talk about these projects. So it benefits both parties. They've got a story, they get to talk about how it's made, and we get to show it and get those ideas out there to let other people in on it. So it's a really strong symbiotic relationship between the media and our work. And because we don't do many private projects, we're very open in how we do things and put a lot of that information out there on the web on its own, so that others can take up these ideas and try them out themselves.
I mean, thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz sizlerin de ilgisine. Uzun zamandır gördüğüm en kalabalık soru cevap sezonuydu. Bu gece burada bitmiyor. Bu akşam Su Soleil'in nefis müziğiyle beraber olacağız az sonra. Lütfen gitmeyin, bizle beraber olun. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz.